Direct from Foxborough, Massachusetts, the gem of Norfolk County, and taped at the studios of Foxborough Cable Access, it's Foxborough Central. And here's your host, Bob Hickey.
And welcome to another episode of Foxborough Central. I am Bob Hickey, your host, and I want to thank you for taking the time to join with me and my guests as we talk about the people, events, and organizations that make Foxborough truly the gem of Norfolk County. Now, every once in a while, we have an opportunity to run across a very special person, and sometimes life throws us curveballs. Sometimes we see the unexpected come and hit us right in the face. And this is one of those times where we have such a story, and now we're going to take that story and make it an opportunity to learn and perhaps participate. So it is my pleasure and distinct honor to welcome Leanne McCarthy to our show. Hi, Leanne. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. Now, just to get it out of the way, our Foxborough connection is you are a local. You grew up here, born and raised?
Born and raised in Foxborough.
And graduated from Foxborough High School?
2011, yes.
2011 grad.
Yes.
But you're not here now, you're going to college.
Right, yeah. I'm getting my master's at the University of Tampa, so I'm down in Florida.
Okay, doing what?
I'm getting my master's in exercise and nutrition science.
Excellent. Exercise and nutrition. So that's interesting because it's going to segue us right into the topic here. So you seem to be a fairly fit and healthy person. You clearly understand the importance of diet and balance and really understanding one's body and how all these external factors such as diet and lifestyle would impact, correct?
You would think, yes.
And yet, you have a story to tell.
Yes.
Why don't you hit us with it?
I had done my undergraduate degree at the University of Tampa as well in allied health, so more in the health field. I started working at the University of Tampa full-time. I was enrolled to begin grad school. That's when I hit my curveball. So it kind of started, it's like a silly story how it started out. I had noticed I had this bump on the side of my tongue. So I went to a walk-in clinic and I asked them what they thought it was. The doctor there said that I most likely had bit my tongue, and so he just sent me home and said it would heal. And then the next day I was still kind of feeling iffy about it, so I went to the dentist. He said it was most likely a canker sore, so he said that heals on its own, I could go home. And then the next day my tongue was so swollen I couldn't shut my mouth. And I was having a pretty heavy lisp with the inflammation, so I went to the emergency room. I walked in and told them I had a canker sore I want them to look at, and I didn't leave the hospital for about 2 months.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Well, first of all, good for you for
Thank
not
you.
just accepting what people told you, because clearly there was a bit of a...
It wasn't a canker sore.
No, a bit of a slough off there, right. So, and I think there's so many stories where cancer is misdiagnosed as something else that your story resonates because it's not something that is even on your radar, I'm sure.
Yep.
And yet you were persistent. And I know many of us, myself included, we kind of, I'll work through it, I'll fight through it. So you go into the hospital with a canker sore.
Yes.
And your tongue is swollen up.
So I had gone into the hospital, and they have this touch screen like iPad to check yourself in, and you have to click on all these different symptoms that you're feeling, and I felt fantastic, just had this really big tongue. So I clicked impaired speech was the closest thing I could think of. So everyone there thought I was having a stroke because I clicked impaired speech. So they rushed me to the front, and I'm like, hi, I think I have a canker sore, if you could check it out. And so they kind of laughed it off. And then they brought me to a room. They were just doing routine blood work. And they had come back after a blood test, and they were like, actually, I apologize. We had an error in the lab. We're going to take another blood sample. And then when they'd come back a second time, they were like, it actually wasn't an error. At that point, I had a third of the blood left in my body. And we didn't know why at that point. So my parents, I was admitted to the ICU. My parents are living in Foxborough, and they called me on the phone, and they're like, we're going to fly down to Florida tonight. And I was like, Mom, Dad, I was 22 at the time. I'm like, that's really embarrassing if you fly to Florida because I have a canker sore. So I was in the hospital for a couple more days for testing, like CAT scans and MRIs.
Sure.
And then I finally had the bone marrow biopsy, and that's when I was diagnosed with leukemia. Then my parents came down. I let them come down after that.
That was very well. Parents' love is always first. So first, a big shout out to your parents, and your family also is from here in Foxborough.
Yes.
And they still live here in Cookcastle Street, the family home, which
Mm-hmm.
is great. But you, now that you've been diagnosed with leukemia as a healthy, relatively healthy college student, just young, no issues, it's got to be scary.
Yeah, it was definitely a shock, especially I was diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia. The average age is 65 years old. Other risk factors are being male, having had cancer before, and being a smoker. So I don't fit into any of those, so it was really out of the blue.
That's well, statistics are always made up of a certain percentage,
Yes.
so congratulations, you hit that one, sure.
Thank you.
So before we go any further,
Yes.
are we recovered or are we in remission?
Yeah, I'm in remission. I'm fantastic.
Okay, so
Yes.
what we're talking about now is what happened, the solution, and that wonderful story, and then how folks at home can, do our duty, be responsible as humans, and do the right thing and get involved with the bone marrow transplant program by signing up and getting ourselves tested. So as we get into that, and I'm going to continue the conversation with Leanne, we also have a brief video that we're going to show a little bit later, which is going to highlight her story as well as introduce you to the donor who effectively saved Leanne, and which is why we're blessed to have her here with us today right now. So we're going to direct you to www.bethematch.org. They also have a Facebook page, Be The Match, and it's a lot different now perhaps than it was when I through JC's project we were tested. Now it's so easy to get tested. There's not really any reason why anybody shouldn't or wouldn't get tested, because it's painless.
Yes.
You don't have to leave your home.
No.
It's just a lot different than it used to be.
Nice and easy.
So how easy is it? Tell me.
So when you go onto the website, there's a link that says register to be a donor.
Okay.
You put in basic information, your name, your mailing address, your age, your gender, and they actually send a cheek swab to your house in the mail. You just swab your cheek, drop it back off in the mailbox, so you don't need to leave home. You can do it in your pajamas.
That's great. That's awesome. Well, let us, here at Foxborough Central, we always love watching in our pajamas, myself included. So let this just go with the importance of being on the donor list. So this is a national registry, correct?
Yes, correct.
And the registry is accessible by the hospitals. And then once they diagnosed you and found out what the issue was, why didn't you just use your family? I mean, isn't that the best way?
So the best chance you have as a match in your family is your siblings, but it's only a 25% chance, so even family is pretty low. I have 3 siblings, so we thought we had good odds. None of them matched, so that's when we turned to the bone marrow registry. Only 2% of the U.S. is in the registry, so I might have 100 matches out there and not know. So I think being in the registry definitely helps with that process, because it can take up to 6 months to find a donor, so you're just kind of playing a waiting game. I luckily found my donor within a couple weeks of my doctors looking into the registry, so we got really, really lucky.
That's great.
Yeah, it was really incredible. And after I spoke to him, he said he only signed up a couple weeks prior, so the timing just worked out incredibly.
That's fantastic. Well, and his name is?
Miles Moody.
Miles Moody, and Miles Moody is from New Jersey?
From New Jersey,
Yeah.
Yep. He is a senior this year at the University of South Carolina.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so he's down in South Carolina now.
Oh, and you had a chance to meet him, I understand.
I did. So for the first year after your bone marrow transplant, the donor and recipient have to remain anonymous. So we were able to send anonymous letters to each other through the hospital. And then after a full year, you can agree to give your information. You can choose to remain anonymous, totally up to you on both sides. We had both chosen to give our information to each other, so we got in contact. He signed up for the registry through Be The Match South Carolina at his school, USC.
Okay.
So they were really, really incredible and supportive, and they planned a weekend for Miles and us to meet.
Oh, great.
So my family was flown in, his family was flown in, and we met actually at center court during a basketball game, and it was on ESPN.
Oh, get out of town.
It was wild. It was the coolest weekend.
That's awesome. Well, perhaps now's a good time to introduce our viewership to Miles. So let's take a moment and watch a little video that features our healthy friend Leanne and Miles Moody. Let's take a look.
Looks good. has been surreal looking back at everything that has happened. When I was 22, I was faced with a 25% chance of survival, but today I am thrilled to be celebrating my 24th birthday. I'm so thankful for the care that I received and so humbled that my donor, Miles, was brave and selfless and donated his stem cells to a complete stranger. He is the reason I'm alive today and the reason that I have a bright future to look forward to.
Great. That's a tremendous story, and it was so great to see Miles and you both candidly talking and really demonstrating why this program is so important. So let's talk about Be the Match.
Yes.
It's a national organization. Do you know how they're funded?
I'm actually not entirely sure how they are funded.
They're a nonprofit organization.
Yeah, they do a lot of volunteers throughout the country.
It's www.bethematch.org. And as you said, there's a simple link on there, and there's no reason why anybody shouldn't or couldn't become a member of the National Registry.
Right.
You say only 2% of the people are actually on the registry. You know, it's funny when you think about the importance of this. A lot of it is just publicity, and a lot of it is also fear. So let's talk about the publicity first. Clearly, we're trying to do our part here at Foxborough Central and share the word, spread the word through our local cable as well as our Facebook and YouTube channel. But you know, more importantly, how nationally is it being done, or in your opinion, what do you think given that you're in allied health, it's actually an interesting topic.
Yes.
What can we do better to promote the needs? And I'm not even speaking just about this, but the greater needs such as blood donations and plasma donations and other types of organ donations. What more can be done or should be done?
I think it is just a lot about awareness. Like after I was diagnosed, I noticed a lot of people saying, "Oh, I've never heard of Be the Match. Like I'll sign up. I never knew this was a thing." So I just think getting the name out there and getting just the organization more well known. I know a lot of college campuses get pretty involved. Be the Match is actually coming to UT's campus, University of Tampa, pretty soon, so we're excited. But
That's
they do
great.
different publicity events like that.
I imagine that you've drawn awareness to the University of Tampa, so that's great. Unfortunately, you had to go through a difficult publicity tour, but I suppose if you're going to be there, use it for good, right?
Yes.
So with that, interestingly, I suppose that the colleges are a great way for them to reach out and capture a generation to make them aware and raise their social consciousness and awareness about the need and the reasons why. So from a local level here in Foxborough, I got to tell you, I wasn't aware of Be the Match as being the umbrella organization. So I'm glad you're here sharing this story.
Thank you.
And we're glad you're here with us. That's a good thing. Facebook page, Be a Friend.
Yes.
And the question, I suppose, is what is the cost? What do I have to pay to be part of this?
$0.
No.
Just a cheek swab.
Just a cheek swab, which they send to me. Okay.
Yes.
So, and then my understanding also is that, and we talked about the difficulty earlier, I also remember, and maybe you'll allay my fears or tell me the new technology, that back in the day to get tested after you became a potential match, it was a pretty intensive process, including a spinal shot and that sort of thing. Is that still the case?
Luckily, very different nowadays.
Very different.
Yes. So, for example, Miles, when he donated, well, he was found as a potential match.
Okay.
So they went and did more health screenings to find if he was healthy enough. And when he cleared all that, he was given a series of shots just in the arm to stimulate blood production just a couple days leading up to the donation. The day of the big donation, he sat down in a chair with some Netflix, and they put a needle in just like you're about to donate blood. The only difference being that when the blood comes out, it goes through a machine that pulls out the stem cells and puts it in an IV bag, and then the rest of the blood just flows back. So it's...
But we do that anyway. I donate through the asparagus program at the Red Cross, and there's just a needle coming out. Yeah, platelets coming in and
like
going
that,
out.
yep.
So that's all it is.
Absolutely.
It's nothing more than that.
Just like that, and then they
That's
take
amazing.
the IV bag of stem cells, hooked it up to my IV, and that's how I got my transplant on my end.
Really?
Yes.
That sounds a lot less painful. Not that And by the way, anybody who is afraid to go through a little pain to save a life, shame on all of us, right? But that said, it is a real concern. Maybe I don't want to do that. So it's not as intense of an operation,
Right. I think
or procedure, I should say. It's not an operation, it's a procedure,
Right.
as it used to be.
That's, I think, another part of the publicity is a lot of people, even if they hear about bone marrow donations, they're always kind of hesitant.
Sure.
Because they think it's going to be really painful. But with the modern technology we have now, a lot
That's amazing.
easier.
Well, credit to the medical profession,
Yes.
and that's phenomenal. So there's no good reason not to become part of the registry, and we should all go to www.bethematch.org. And I'm going to ask you for a last word here in a minute because we're quickly running out of time. But before we get to that, what's the future hold for Leanne?
So when I was first diagnosed and I knew I needed the bone marrow transplant, moved up to here. So I was back in Foxborough getting my recovery. And I left my job and I didn't get to start grad school. So now I'm back in Florida. I'm working at the school again and I will be graduating with my master's this December.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So you, from the day of the canker sore,
Yes.
to your receiving a clean bill of health and being sent on your way back down to Florida to start your master's degree, how long was that?
About a year and a half.
Year and a half.
Yeah, so I had different chemo treatments, then the bone marrow transplant, and then the longest part being that after the bone marrow transplant, I needed to remain in isolation for 9 months. So I was here in Foxborough.
We saw the picture of you with the mask on, so
Yes.
Wow. So you're in isolation. You were actually here.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Did you watch any episodes of Foxborough Central while you were here?
I sure did. Home every day.
Shameless plug, shameless plug. Well, it's so wonderful to have you back here. I'm going to give you the last word for why people should do this and to talk about the awareness. But I want to remind everybody at home that www.bethematch.org is the website. It's a simple click procedure. They'll send you all the information. They'll send you the materials, a quick cheek swab, put it back in the envelope, and send it back. I bet you don't have to pay for postage, do you? No, save free postage.
It's all set for you.
So it's so important to save a life. And if you can look honestly at Leanne's eyes and tell me that it's not worth taking a simple 5-minute procedure, then I don't know who you are. So on our side here at Foxborough Cable Access, we'd love to spread this word. We'd love to spread the message.
Thank
and you can
you.
always click back on www.fcatv.org to see this program again and get this information again. But be their friend on Facebook, Be The Change. Check them out at www.bethethange.org. So Leanne, thank you so much for being with us, and you have the last word.
Thank you very much. I'm just so happy to be here and happy that you're spreading the publicity because when I was 22, I did have a 25% chance of survival, and here I am because of Miles. So it's just been really incredible.
25% chance.
Yes.
That's not a good stat, but it's great to have you here, and it's great that we have a lot of people who want to help, I'm sure, and it's great that Miles was able to help.
Yeah.
So big shout out to Miles Moody
Very grateful.
of New Jersey. We're all very grateful. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank
and
you.
Thank you very much for joining us here on Foxborough Central. A reminder that Foxborough Central brings you all sorts of great information about people and events here locally, but it only happens through the hard work of our volunteers. If you'd like to volunteer here at Foxborough Cable Access, why not come down to our studios at 28 Central Street, check in the front desk with Marg Nash, and she'll tell you all about it. Until next time, Foxborough, have a great day.